So, without further ado, I'll just go ahead and bring the episode in. What's really good, pot stirrers? Welcome to another episode of Love, War, Challenges. I am MTV Malik. He is Tyler Louder. What's really good? Gang, 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 gang. Now, last episode, I had a couple of gripes. I was like, oh, you're promising all these eliminations. We're not even getting done. You know, I'm okay with the drama and going through everybody's backstory and seeing why everybody's doing what they're doing. But let me tell you something. I was not disappointed today.
Oh, no.
I was not disappointed at all. At all. What about you? Any disappointment coming into today's episode?
Here's the thing. Really what it does is it makes me more mad at production because we could have been doing this stuff this whole time. Like we should have
great way to start the season.
We should have an intro episode where we go straight into a daily. We're like, all right, here you are. Here are the rules of the game. Here's your teams daily. Boom. And now drama, backstories. And we're going to come right back. We're going to go elimination to start the next one. I think this is great. I think that they should overcast every season and have a mass elimination because getting 4 different eliminations from 4 different eras, even though it's close with balls in on 10, yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And we had a whole episode dedicated to eliminations. I remember back during, was it like Final Reckoning days when it was like, oh God. Oh my God! They're like the drama is getting cliffhangers is just them sitting at the table. They haven't even voted yet and everything. Here, I was sitting here and I was watching the beginning of the episode and I was like, did I miss something? Like,
I was thinking the same thing. Like, did they say when they voted in? No, they just put everybody down there. Who's your people and put them in. I was thinking the same exact thing. Like, yo, did I miss something? Did
I stop watching 5 minutes early? And then they end up going. They go back every time they talk to each era. At first, it sounded like TJ was going to say, you're going to play the elimination game from your era, is what I thought was going to happen, which would make the most sense. But then you see them drawing a card, and I was like, okay, well, they're drawing cards, but like it wasn't very clear. Like that didn't, like we got that as it was going. The editing wasn't very clear on that. But overall, I mean, outside of Hall Brawl, every single elimination was fantastic to watch.
I don't think Hall Brawl wasn't fantastic to watch.
It was the most boring. It was boom, done, game.
I would definitely say Take Shelter surprised the shit out of me about how exciting it was. But you know what? Let's go ahead and jump right into it.
Yeah.
All right. So we got the losers. Ever 1 is Katie and Mark. Ever 2 is Kellyanne and Ryan. 3 is Naya and Leroy. 4 is Nerese and Theo. And the people who are they going against is going to be Anissa and Derek, Brandon and Cara, Tori and Amanda, Paulie and Olivia. There was some drama. I love the fact that they, before jumping into each elimination, they kind of back-ended some of the drama that was going into it. We get on the editing a lot, but I thought that this was a very good way of how they did it. So I'm appreciative of that fact. It looks like Everest 3 is going to be up first, and it's going to be balls in, and it's the first to 2.
So real quick, let's talk about the. Actually, you know what? Actually, let's just jump right into this decision-wise, and let's let you answer because normally you send it to me and I answer and I give my insight and everything. Was putting down Amanda and Tony the right choice?
Yes. Amanda pisses off.
And we have to talk about from Corey and Tori's perspective, not what we would do, obviously, but.
From Corey's perspective, he's going to be fine. Amanda is a cool ally, but Corey's probably going to be okay. He has enough relationships where he'll be all right. And Tori just does not like Amanda. Seeing her gone works. I like Amanda, but it's not like she brings any specific skill set that's going to advance the team. It makes sense.
Yeah.
And she's disliked.
And I mean, and Tony was, I always knew Tony was going in just because of the relationships they have. The only way that it would change, like Tori wasn't going to vote in either of those 2 guys, Jordan or Devin. And so Corey would have to just like piss off Tori by putting one of them in. Like, so just like it was lose there. And I think it was probably like, but the weird thing is, I don't know. I didn't feel like keeping Avery over Amanda was smart in my opinion, just because it was a guaranteed number 4 Corey, like a guaranteed, like no matter what, you have them.
Putting Amanda in makes sense. It doesn't hurt Corey as much as Amanda wishes it would. But Avery was a better choice, but Avery is also a choice you can make later on down the road. In
Probably.
that one. But I think Avery and Amanda are pretty interchangeable. I think Amanda thinks she brings more value than what she actually does.
So I will say this: we have to talk about some things that happened off the show that were discussed, and then we can talk about inside. So first, we're going to talk about that. There's inconsistencies with challenge production and the rules makers or the referees or whoever you want to say. With balls in and hall brawl, they were very inconsistent on rules and telling some people one thing and telling other people other things. And it was very apparent. Jordan went to, I don't know if he's streaming or put out a TikTok, but people were kind of showing it. And he was mad because last episode, they were very clear. You need to paddle in that little circle float hat thing, and you're not allowed to swim because otherwise he would have outswim everybody and outworked them. Devin's completely sinks and he can't use it because it's underwater, but they let him swim and it was okay. And he's pretty upset about that, which he kind of is justified. To be fair, Devin probably should have been disqualified. Like he let his boat sink, therefore he can't complete the challenge. It's no different than if you have something where you got to jump to a rope and you got to hold on to it. If you let go of that rope, well, you can't get it anymore. Well, you're DQ'd. Like, you know, like you can't use the things you're supposed to. So it's very something that was kind of apparent. Now he was like, okay, well, maybe that's just a one-time thing. And these eliminations happened. We see with Nia and Amanda, Nia misses the frame, bounces out. She goes and picks up the ball and still scores a point. Then we see Leroy and Tony lose the ball and it's dead. Balls in has always been, as soon as that ball hits the ground, it's dead, right? Isn't that what we've always kind of seen in history or anything? And it was just very odd. I mean,
and this whole thing where you only have to get to the middle circle wasn't really making sense to me either.
That's because of Cara, though. Because on Free Agents, she broke her hand, with running Jessica into it. So I think that was the way to protect challengers. I didn't like it though. I feel like I don't know. It does cheapen it. It does cheapen it. Amanda really impressed. We can go back into talking about the elimination. Yes. She really impressed. And if she was against like somebody that wasn't Nia or like Tori for their size, I think she might have like beaten somebody else. How quick she was, like surprising.
I thought she put up a very good fight, much better than anticipated. I think there was a lot of surprises in these eliminations.
All of them, yes.
I thought she did a very good job. I thought she fought with a lot of heart, but I thought that this was always going to be against her. And if any of these eliminations for her was not take shelter, it wasn't really looking that great.
She was like Ryan. Like they both wanted take shelter. Anything else wasn't in their benefit. So yeah. And then we get to the men. I mean, Nia wins. We get that. Obviously, she was gonna win. We get to the men. Do you think Leroy just took a nice paycheck and then was willing to go home? Because he seemed checked out. He didn't seem like he really wanted to be there. He just had a baby.
Watching him get dog walked by Tony, I was like, man, something must be wrong. Like, what the hell is going on? I didn't understand. That does make more sense. To me, it's a very embarrassing loss. He should easily be able to beat somebody like Tony. And he was there calling him unathletic, kind of fresh off the couch. He was only in All-Stars 4 for a minute. There's no reason why Leroy shouldn't have won this one. Getting dog walked by Tony in season 40 was not the way to go. So giving him the benefit of the doubt, maybe he was checked out. Maybe Tony just wanted it more, but it wasn't a great look for Leroy. He was getting tackled and fumbling around, and all of the reason why we love Leroy in eliminations, we didn't see any of that this episode.
Here's the big thing. Tony is bigger than Leroy.
Tony's stacked.
Tony is a little bit younger than Leroy. Leroy, I think, was really affected by he was on Bananas podcast, and he was really affected by All Stars 4 of putting all this training and effort in, and then he gets to the final and it was literally, it meant nothing. Like you didn't have to train or get ready for anything. So I think potentially he didn't have as much, he didn't prepare as much going into 40 as he probably should have. But I just think he was mentally checked out. I think all his mind was on just getting back to Cam and the babies, and how hard that probably is for her and everything. And probably just wanting to be there versus being on the challenge. And I think it's just one of those situations where it's like, it's season 40, the paycheck is too good to pass up. Even if you're only there for one week, it's too good to pass up. Leroy demands a pretty high price, I feel like, compared to some other people. Here's the thing. I think Tony would have beat anybody on his team in that. I think that game, for all the people on his team, that's the best matchup Tony could have gotten. I think in a hall brawl, Leroy would have had better, where you can just use your body as strength. But when you have to like manage having a ball and that, I mean,
that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't like I was sitting
And Tony's
there
not
too.
a pushover. Tony is known
not.
for being a good competitor. Like, I get we haven't seen him in a while, but it was just tough watching Leroy go out that way.
My wife even commented on that. She's like, if Tony didn't stop doing the show and kept doing it, he would be liked by more people and he'd be respected as a competitor more.
And I think that he will most definitely have a championship under his belt also.
I think so too. And I just think he's kind of underestimated. So, but overall, I mean, the people that won, great. I mean, we see Amanda and Leroy leave. I really like that they got to kind of stay and see all the challenges. And obviously they're going to have an impact. We'll talk about that later, but yeah, Balls In was what we thought it would be. But in my opinion, it was the third most entertaining elimination of the night. So let's go ahead and move on to, Arrow 1.
Pole wrestle. So this one was great.
I do have a gripe about this real quick, but
okay.
Oh, Derek's the pole wrestle king. Going into this elimination, he was 1-2 in pole wrestle. Like, and the only reason he beat Joss is because Joss tore his bicep and quit because he had a torn bicep.
He's exciting in pole wrestle. I think that's where everybody's going with it.
Sure, except for he lost to Wes when he was cheating, and then he lost to Nehemiah when he should have been over to overpower Nehemiah.
You know who?
I don't dislike Derek. He's the reason I love the challenge. But he's not the king of pole wrestle.
Yeah, if there's a shot to take at Derek, you will never miss. You never miss that opportunity, do you?
No,
I'm gonna tell him too. I'm gonna tell him because you know you're on his radar.
I'm gonna tell you right now, 100%. Derek is the reason I love the challenge. He is the reason. The first season I ever saw was Gauntlet 2, and that's why I fell in love with the challenge for his underdog persona. When Derek is just like, oh, I'm gonna throw in Derek, and he's like, oh, okay, you think you're better than me, and then he goes at him. I like that. But when it's like, I'm God's gift, I'm the best, I'm this and that and everything, that's not what I like. But that's not the type of guy I root for. At that moment, I go, oh, 52-year-old Mark pulls it out. Like, that's how my mind switches. And it's just more so, it's like he should still be looked at as an underdog in everything he does. Derek should, because of his size, and he shouldn't change that mantra. He should be the underdog he's like the blue collar hero. That's what he should be. He's the working man's challenger.
You know who he reminds me of? Mick Foley.
Yeah.
Mick Foley is not known for winning a whole lot, even though his wins are, phenomenal.
Celebrated.
Yeah. But a lot of his, when you go back, you see a lot of his clips, you see a lot of the things that people remember Mick Foley for. Those were mostly on efforts he lost in.
It's for
ones
putting
against
in
The Rock, getting thrown off the Hell in a Cell,
giving his body for the fans, like giving his everything for the fans. That's
and he's from Long Island too. Long Island holding it down, representing 21, baby. And that's who Derek reminds me of. He does have a lot of confidence though, and I don't fault him for it. He has a lot of confidence. He has a lot of love. I think it's deserved. And he wants to shine in it for a little bit. Is it a little bit? Sure, but I give him grace with that.
You know what's nice about the earlier eras is that these guys they're not just like Theo versus Paulie. It was like the Pitbull versus the Godfather. And it felt like it's like that old boxing feel or old UFC feel where like they have nicknames like that's how we know them is by their nicknames. And so it's just like
absolutely the more nicknames the better. The Devil. I'm not too great about Dave. I always thought
but like Spider, like Anderson Silva is like Spider. Like that. I
don't want to get canceled for this. I always thought Jordan should have been called Fingers. And I say that because he played somebody called Fingers when he was on an episode of The Blacklist. And I was like, oh, that's really perfect for him. And that's where I got the idea from. I don't want people to think that, I'm an ableist or anything like that. And don't get me twisted. I hate Jordan, but I'm not an ableist.
But going into this elimination, people need to understand something is that Derek is 1-2 in pole wrestle. He did beat Josh. It is no, but it talk about his pole wrestle against Wes was like one of the first few moments. Like I think Abram and Brad and Balls in, and then a couple seasons later we get Wes and Derek and pole wrestle. It really like establishes like, holy cow, people are like, they're not just climbing a ladder and doing a puzzle.
It was very intense. And,
Yeah.
and it was very confrontational, very violent. And really, it kind of, to be honest, it changed the course of how the challenge went going forward. They knew they had to keep these carnival games and puzzles and strategy in it, but they knew that there was an avenue for this physicalness, and it was needed, and it's loved and celebrated in the challenge.
But like if we look at like why Derek is so revered, it's like we fast forward to Vendettas and he's going up against Joss and he's not saying anything. He's not barking. He's not bragging about how good he is. He's going, it's gonna be a hard day at the office. And Joss is going, dude, this guy won't quit. He won't stop. We see Wes going, he's gonna be the godfather of my kids. People are praising him. That's what we like to see.
I think in that situation, I think he had a lot less confidence. I think he went in there thinking like, I'm probably going to lose, but I'm going to make him work for it. And I don't think he went into that with Mark. I think he went like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to tear him up. So
and we should know also, Mark is 0-1 in this elimination going into it as well. He lost to Johnny Bananas. Well, lost to Johnny Bananas on X's one. Cut a deal behind the door, but
listen, Derek gets the win, and I would say these guys did not disappoint. It was very physical, it was very active. Mark leaning over him, you know, and it's funny because pole wrestle is one of the things that if you ever actual wrestled before, a lot of that stuff can come into play. And I think Derek did wrestle before.
Yeah.
And Mark does professional wrestling, which there are elements of actual wrestling in there, but it's not the same. The flip over was great, but if it's not going to be executed to a certain degree, it wasn't going to work. Even though I think it did make for great TV, I think he put up a hell of a fight, but I thought this was always Derek's elimination to win. I'll never count Derek out on the pole wrestle.
Here's the thing. If Mark wasn't going up against his friend, I think we would have saw like what happened in like season 1 of All Stars. I think if Mark wanted to, he could have just picked him up and just started slamming.
Mark is stacked. He's 52 and strong as an ox.
He looks good for 52, by the way. Like amazing. He looks, yeah. But if that wasn't his friend, I honestly think Mark would have picked him up and thrown him around. Like if that was, let's just say that was Paulie or Theo or, you know, somebody from like era 4. Even though Theo's strong and everything, I think Mark would have been a little more physical. And I think it was one of those situations where like, if I win, great, but if I lose, it's to my friend, it's okay. And I think that's the mentality. And even Derek, I don't think Derek was being as aggressive as he could have been because it was his friend. That's the only setback about having these eras go against each other. Yeah. The early eras. But overall, it was good. This was the second best elimination of the night, the pole wrestle.
I think that's going to be a fatal misstep by production. I don't think that if you want to build up a team, having the team have to fight each other and have to coordinate on how they're going to fight each other, it works directly against. You want these people sticking together and working against the other teams.
You know how great it would be if like they were doing that and like era 3 got down to like 2 people and it's like, dude, we're about to wipe out an era, or they're going against 20 other people. You know what I mean? That would be more legendary. So let's go ahead and move on to when these matchups were shown, and then we saw what elimination, the most lopsided matchup we thought. I mean, you'd have to agree, Anissa versus Katie. When you saw this, you were like, there's no chance.
I believe the post I put in a picture of Katie's like, yeah, you know, I'm going to go in and try my hardest. I was like, moments before disaster.
Katie's way stronger than we think. And I don't want to dog her because I do like her character and everything. Anissa's not Katie. Anissa's not that strong with her arms.
No, but here goes the thing is, she is a bigger woman, and doing so, the muscles are actually bigger. Don't get me wrong, if she actually worked on some of those things, she could be a real dog, but a lot of that power comes just from her size.
Yeah, but I mean, even her matchup against Paula back on like Duel 1, they showed that little highlight. I'm pretty sure that was like a 20-minute scrap, and that was against Paula that was like 100 pounds, who was smaller than Katie, and that took forever. And then she lost to Kara, and so I think for Anissa, this was A, she won a lot faster than she did against Paula, and B, she kind of redeemed herself against like Kara, and it kind of showed that she can kind of do this. What I don't understand is like how she can look up at everybody and then go, "How come you put me in? What do you mean? Like you and CT don't work together ever." I
Yeah,
understand, and Rachel always turned you in, always,
like this whole I'm
always.
surprised I'm being treated this way, and how is this happening, and why? Stop it, Five.
Yeah.
You know why, and you should have expected this.
If this
And
was
this
like
whole
Tori putting you in, I'd be like, okay, that's a
right,
surprise. Like that's your friend.
but also no one's afraid to put Anissa in for any reason at any time. Anissa is a lot of bark with no bite, kind of feckless when it comes to these situations. And she can't politic that good. She doesn't have a good leg to stand on when it comes to why shouldn't I be put into elimination. I could put you into elimination 5 times. There's not a goddamn thing you can do about it because you're not going to win a daily. Even though she can, and she has won some pretty important dailies in the past couple of years.
Absolutely. And here's the thing. I think that people understand this is Anissa's fault at this, is that they know that she will forgive them and that they can work together later and it's going to be okay because Anissa is a good time. She's a good vibe. She just wants happiness at the house. She doesn't want all this drama. So they know like, yeah, it's okay. She'll get over it. Like we'll be fine.
I'll live.
And that's a fault to Anissa because she's played that and portrayed that. So people are just like, all right, well, but yeah, so I mean, Katie put up a really good fight. I think we were all pretty surprised. I think that moment probably of her putting almost like in an armbar kind of thing with her leg sweeping over, I feel like that all happened in like 10 seconds and the edit stretched it out over like 5 minutes.
Yeah. And they reused it a couple of times. Also, if Katie had any kind of real MMA training, she probably could have got that locked in. Too.
Right.
And
Right.
it would have been great.
Did you not find it weird that they were starting side by side instead of facing each other? Didn't you find that odd?
I did find it a little bit odd. I don't know why, because for me, it didn't really help with, the camera view or anything like that. So it didn't really make sense to me why that was done.
From a production standpoint, I would want helmet versus helmet holding the thing. I can get a zoom in on you real quick. And then as soon as you go, I got to cut to the other side and it's somebody pulling. Like why would you not want that? But the results are kind of what we expected for this one too. This one wasn't any of a surprise.
No, but I think Katie went in there knowing like the best I can do is making sure I put up a good fight, and she did.
So let's go to move to the most boring, in my opinion, elimination of the night, which was the hall brawls. They stretched these out. I bet all 4 runs of the hall brawl, both the women's and the men's, where they went twice, I bet they lasted a total of 2 minutes combined time.
Probably, but hall brawl is a quicker elimination.
So let's talk about the inconsistencies here. Paulie, let go of him. You got to go for it. Stop pulling him. You got to go for it. You got to go. Olivia holds Nerys for halfway across, and they don't say a thing. Weird.
I think when it comes to hall brawl, less is more. If they're pulling and dragging each other, let them.
I agree, but they already made that call in the Paulie Theo matchup of like, Paulie, you got to let go of him. You got to go for your thing. And then all of a sudden they didn't for the other.
I got a different feeling for it. I got a feeling that it was more of a suggestion than a rule, than like, hey, you have to let him go now and then make a run for it. Think about like, hey man, you got to let him go at some point. Like this isn't working for you the way you're hoping it is. And that's the kind of way I took it. And so I don't think that was a like established rule that they couldn't do, but at least that's the way I took it when TJ said it.
Nerys doesn't look like she likes contact. This was the worst elimination for Nerys.
Neither one of them looked like they wanted to initiate the contact that much.
But
and we've seen this before.
Yeah, we saw it with was like, oh my gosh, what were their names? It was on Double Agents. Mm-hmm. And they kind of just like, oh, see ya. Like,
yeah. Excuse me.
No matter who she went against for Nerys, this was a terrible matchup for her.
Terrible.
But it was the best thing to happen for Horacio, because now you're not worried about 2 people's games. You're worried about your game.
Yeah, but man, I want, especially the way Nerys performed on season 39. I was so ready to see so much more of her. I think
Horacio threw that elimination. I'll stand to that to this day. No, I think Horacio threw the elimination into Reese
in
in last
39.
season, and I think that it affects his game.
We we know, man.
Anyways, here's this is crazy though. Nerys is on this trajectory. There's always a video I've always wanted to put out of like season finish where it's like worst to best or best to worst, going from second place on one season to first out on the next. We've had it on a couple other seasons. Like we had it with Wes went from like finals arrivals to being second out on X's 2 to being first out on Battle of the Seasons to being a winner on Rivals 2. Like it was, we see these.
Yeah.
So I've always been interested in those things of like how well you do in one season and then it doesn't transpire. You know, we see CT winning 34 and then being third out in Total Madness. Like she's on that list now. I'm telling you right now, this is the best thing for Rocio's game. This is the best thing. It's the best. He doesn't need he doesn't need friends. He doesn't need alliances. He doesn't need people to worry about. He's a good competitor.
Yes, but to
And
me,
he's
so is
likable.
Nerys. So is I think Nerys is all of those things too.
I agree.
I'm just mad that we're not going to get more of her, and I feel the same way about Paulie. Now listen, I like Paulie. Everybody knows. I like the guy, and I wanted to see more of him. And I think maybe because I like him, I was kind of blind to how this was going to go. There's no reason why Paulie should win this Hall Brawl at all. I mean, don't get me wrong. He's strong. He's stocky. It looks like he put on some decent weight. But Theo is a near Olympian level athlete, and he's tall and he's strong.
Not only that, he's a track athlete. So his lower body is built for momentum and speed. This is perfect for him.
Yes, on paper, and this is more about me. Like I should, I was like, oh my God, Theo just trucked the fuck out of Paulie. How did this happen? And then I took a second, like, well, yeah, of course it happened. Theo has the advantage when it comes to strength and athleticism. Not to mention running really fast or something. This is something he spent a good portion of his life doing.
Paulie would have to get really low, really low.
And he would have to turn it into a wrestling match. I don't think it was impossible for Paulie to win, but yeah, and I think my likability is what kept me so surprised at how it happened. But
it's just because we know we just know what Paulie could bring to the show, entertainment wise, and so it's like that's lost. Like and like Paulie is one of those characters where like Paulie is kind of like this is like this feels like Dirty 30. Like when Devin went out and purged right away, you were like, man, the drama aspect just kind of dropped a little bit, and so that's what this kind of felt. But again, this is the best thing for Kara's game is not having to worry about somebody else.
Well, I don't think she really had to worry about Paulie that much. I think Paulie really worked as a buffer and kind of as a liaison between Kara and some of the other people, and as her protector. I don't think she really had to worry about protecting him too much.
I think for couples, it's an emotional and a mental strain is what it puts on you. Is more so what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that makes sense. It was tough to watch Paulie get trucked and then stepped on. And
if you're listening right now, let's just say Brandon's listening. That is how you lose. How Paulie lost. I know you're not a Jordan fan, but I always bring this up. Okay, losers walk, winners talk. Simple as that. We see when Paulie loses. Hey, good job, man. You did it.
He does lose gracefully,
and we're gonna get to it. But when Brandon loses, it's close bullshit. Ugh, go pout and everything. I can understand you're mad you lost, but like you have to be a humble at losing. Like otherwise, it's like why should we celebrate you ever winning anything if you can't even humble yourself? So, but these results
Jordan
were kind
does
of
lose gracefully too. Win gracefully, lose gracefully, and it's good sportsmanship, and good sportsmanship should be showcased during these shows. Yeah. So, and Paulie didn't take anything away from Theo. He knew it was embarrassing. He said it was going to be a nightmare that's going to stick with him for a long time, and that's kind of the stuff we want to hear from somebody who doesn't like to lose.
Here's the thing, and I know people were like, "Oh, that wasn't that big of a hit." Come on, guys, let's knock it off. Jenny and Tori are right up there on stage. Let's not try and erase what happened to Jenny on War of the Worlds 2. Okay, that's the hardest hit ever, because it was unexpected. So again, 3 different eliminations. 5 of the 6 eliminations were yep, this is what we expected to happen. This is who we thought would win. And then we get to era 2. For some reason, this was the most unexpected matchup. This is everybody, Ryan and Kellyanne, this is what they wanted. This was their
Exactly.
benefit.
And this was the best chance that they were going to get at beating them, because if it was any of these other 3 games, they would have got the floor wiped with them.
I love that it went at the same time. I really loved that it went at the same time. One thing I thought was interesting, everybody cheering on and telling people what to do. Wouldn't it make more sense to watch what the person you don't want to win doing, so you could tell the person on the second round where it came through and how to unloop it and everything? Wouldn't that make more sense?
But this is the challenge. There's not a lot of college degrees rolling around that place.
Oh, there's smart people.
They are, but that's not how they're thinking.
But yeah, so we get here, and I mean, Ryan's praying to the gods. And we see, what's really cool is that we see 4 different strategies.
I thought that was super cool.
We see Kellyanne take both the rope and the chain and go across ways. We see Kara kind of do something similar, but also is putting stuff in front. We see Brandon go across and putting something in front, but then we see Ryan focus on just one side and kept it tight. And it is a not so fast from CT on Invasion.
He remembers how Jay won that one. Just got to get it open.
Yeah.
Just got to get it open enough.
But here's the weird thing. They didn't clearly get everything off the doors, both Ryan and Kara, and they got through and won. Why didn't CT go through the door? Because remember when he pulls it, it's just like a little chain across.
I think he wasn't thinking about it like that.
Right. It has to be a lapse in judgment.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? I love the fact that it went all at the same time. It was very exciting to watch. And you're right, we did get a whole bunch of different strategies. I thought Ryan came out there looking really, really great and really, really determined. And man, Ryan, if you're listening, man, this is what we want to see from you, because this is what we know you're capable of. You're capable of being a beast in this game, and you've been playing it long enough where you know your way around. You have friends, you're well-liked, you're not exactly feared, but you can play this game. I think we see more of this from Ryan. I think Ryan makes a pretty good run during the season.
Were you
especially
surprised,
with his ability to make friends.
Were you surprised that Bananas and Laurel put in Brandon? Like, it seemed like Nehemiah was the easiest pull there, to be honest. Like, yes. Laurel and Brandon come from the same season of Fresh Meat too. Brandon and Bananas have always gotten along more than Nehemiah, so it seems like they have a better connection to him versus Nehemiah.
But if it comes down to performance, who would you rather have? If this is
but they didn't do that. But they didn't do that for the women. That's the problem with this mindset, because Kara was the second best competitor out of 40 people.
Exactly.
And then they were like, well, we should get rid of you. Like,
because it works in some areas and it doesn't work in others. These people all have, this is where those relationships come into play. And sometimes this stuff doesn't make sense. You know, Michelle put in Olivia, and that was the main person who she wanted to protect, but she kind of knew. She was like, hey, you're gonna have to go in.
Nothing she could do.
There's only but so much I can protect you. Not to mention, everybody kind of feels like you deserve to go in. And she did. I like the way that was handled. You know, it was a rivalry and an issue that I feel like got put to bed. And these kind of relationships are going to affect how these votes go in.
If Era 4, though, ends up working as a team, not sending in Josh and keeping Pauly was a stupid thing to do, because Pauly is better at everything. Yeah, everything than Josh.
Josh was a clear choice.
It was a clear choice. The only reason you'd want, but see, and here's the thing: we probably could argue, like, if it was something of like carrying something heavy, Josh could probably do that better than Pauly, but Pauly has more endurance and drive and could do it more times. Like, he could lap him. And this isn't a disrespect to Josh. I think Josh has a role for the challenge, but it is not as like your utility man, which is what every era has a utility man. Like, CT's the utility man for era 1, Bananas utility man for era 2, Jordan, and then it was Pauly, somebody that's they're just good at a lot of things.
Yeah, I would have definitely put in a Josh over a Pauly. And like I said, I'm just really sad that he's not making it in. And we're not going to get more of him.
Can we play devil's advocate? Do you think the drama between them was just played for TV?
Yeah, 100%. I don't think they really have a problem.
Like it. Like, they kissed once. Like, how mad could they really beat each other?
I don't think that. I don't think so. But I think they see an opportunity to get a little bit of TV time, get a little bit of the storyline thrown in. And in reality, being a good challenger is knowing how to take advantage of those opportunities when they come.
So then we get some weird twist that they didn't even explain, which is like, makes you think right away. We go, this is a bad twist. Like, that's my thought, because they didn't explain it.
Right.
But it could end up being a good twist. And this is where somebody like Horacio is going to thrive, because he doesn't make enemies. He's just happy to be here. Like, he's good. This is literally made for Horacio. But also,
feels Big Brother-ish though.
After we see Ryan and Cara win, which I guess I should ask, did you think Kellyanne was going to win there right at the end? Did editing make you think Kellyanne was about to win?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Like, she opened it, and then I was like, oh, she's going to win. And then they did a cutaway to commercial, and I was like, oh, wait. Like, I was like, that's it. She won. And I was like, Cara's going home first tonight. But yeah, it was a huge surprise. It was good editing. So let's talk about the twist if you want, whatever it is. Like, it doesn't make sense to me, but
I would have preferred a redemption house.
That's what I would have preferred. And then just like
redemption house would have been better.
And then like have them do like one challenge, and one guy and one girl come back into the house.
I would have been fine with that, especially because we just dumped off 8 people. Man, I'm not happy at all of the people who went home today. Not happy at all.
I don't really think there's an opportunity with seasons like this that you could have been happy with people that went home. Like, you could maybe pick, like, realistically, could you pick 8 other people that you'd wish that went home? Like 8?
No.
Right?
Because even the people who don't perform well are people who you don't think is going to do well for a whole season. They bring a lot of other stuff. Like Anissa, like, come on, she should be gone within 5 episodes.
But she's a confessional queen.
And she has a lot of other attributes that make her great for the challenge. Katie has, granted, she hasn't been around for a long time, but she still brings drama, and she's still funny as shit, and still highly emotional. And that's one of the things that makes the challenge a challenge. These personalities that that have stayed with us through all of these years.
I kind of wish Mark would have said that he was retiring here and gave like a Timmy on like the Inferno 3 speech. It was like, I'm 52. I've been here since the beginning.
He's gonna die in a challenge.
I just wish he would have said like, this is my last main show challenge. That's what he has to say. He can still do All Stars, but just say it's my last main show challenge. You know, I was here in the beginning, and I want all you guys to keep carrying this torch to season 80. Like, why not?
Because he went somewhere for, 3 weeks and probably made 10, 15 grand. Why would he stop?
And I just, he's not leaving. He's just going to put on his producer hat. He's going to just go behind the scenes, hang out with TJ, and put on his producer hat.
Yeah, that'd be great. Like I said, Mark Long is going to be the first person to die during the challenge, just from old age. Like 83-year-old Mark Long, he's like, the Godfather's still here.
So I'm really hoping that the people that they like vote and everything or give these numbers to don't impact the game too much. Like, it's going to decide a winner. Like, I don't want it to be like, oh, you won the final, but you only had 5 points and this other person had 40. So they get 45 minutes off their time. Like,
I would fucking hate that so much.
Brandon gave Ryan 0.
Why?
What?
You sound like sour grapes, which is something something we kind of expect from him these days.
Amanda gave Cara a 5. Come on.
That was great.
I heard they kind of mended fences though a little bit, that Amanda apologized to Cara and everything. So
she did.
Because was that on like the episode 0 of like seeing the house?
Yeah, episode 0.
I didn't see that.
Like,
so
she was like, I felt really bad. I said, I wish a horse died, and then the horse does, die, and
time.
I mean,
they don't live forever. Like, I mean, it's
no, exactly, and the horse was already old.
Yeah,
but I remember at the time it's like a fucking nuclear bomb. I hope your horse dies.
Well, I mean, that's like Cara's like closest thing. So yeah.
Oh man, Challenge Twitter was a time back then.
But overall, Challenge production, this was a really good episode. We had 8 eliminations in one episode.
An all elimination
callbacks.
Episode. That was great.
Well, and doing the callbacks per era made it. We were talking the other day, last week, where I was like, man, it was like this table, this table, this table, this, and they're bouncing. This was, okay, guys, we heard you. We're going to focus on this. Then we're going to focus on this.
Cara did say that, and I think she was spot on. It sounds like Challenge Production heard us and gave us what we wanted. Hey, you want to see all of your favorites in these eliminations? Day 1, you got a whole episode of all of your favorite eliminations with all of the people who voted in. I thought it was pretty. I thought it was pretty great, and it's for the first time in a long time as a viewer and as a fan, I felt heard and respected. So hats off to them.
Was there an elimination that you thought should have been here that wasn't? Or do you think everything was, I mean, once TJ explained it, they all, I mean, the first three kind of made the most sense, right? Physical ones. And then the last one was like, this is like the biggest upset in Era 4 history. Like those two probably kind of were like,
I do feel like Take Shelter could have been interchangeable, but also not everything could be a banger.
well,
So it made sense.
if Hall Brawl wasn't Era 3, I think Not So Fast would have been a really good one there. But Hall Brawl
and check this out.
is the challenge.
Exactly. And you could have easily used that interchangeable because we have gotten different variations of Hall Brawl.
Right.
You know, and a lot of those variations could have came through. I think the one where they would put in a tube that was kind of spinning was not the absolute worst one, a Hall Brawl with a ball, you know, so it was pretty interchangeable.
Yeah.
But when it comes to the challenge, these are the ones we think of, you know, Take Shelter, not so much, but I understand why it's there.
Yeah.
I wasn't disappointed at all. Great episode.
Nope. Great episode. And expectations are high after breaking viewership and being successful. And now expectations are even higher. Like
Expectations are going to be high. I really hope they step up and really just give us what we want.
We're here. We're back. No top 10.
No top 10. No top 10 it's way too many people right now. For
too many people.
Too many people. Yes. All right. That's going to do it. Episode 2 of the challenge, season 40. Once again, I am MTV Malik. He is Tyler Louder. This is Love, War, Challenges. Good night. Or good day. What time do people
good
watch
morning.
No, not good morning. It'll probably be out today.
Maybe their drive to work. Maybe their commute. They put it on their ears and they listen.